She bent down and kissed their foreheads. "Today's the day you finally meet your dad," she whispered. But the moment Fati Vazquez stepped into the marble lobby, she knew something was wrong. Sirens, chaos, and news that the CO was already dead. Fati Vazquez stood in front of her modest bathroom mirror, smoothing the edges of her daughter Sariah's tight curls with practiced care. The scent of coconut oil filled the room, mingling with the slight bitterness of strong Dominican coffee from the kitchen. In the other room, Samir tugged at the collar of his too-stiff shirt and whined. "Do I have to wear this?" he asked again. Fati didn't answer immediately. She just turned her youngest daughter, Selene, by the shoulders, adjusted her dress, and said softly, "He deserves to see you all looking like who you are, kings and queens." Then she turned back to Samir and smirked. "And yes, you do." The subway ride into Midtown was quiet. The triplets, now 8 years old, sat clutching their sketch pads and drawing each other in silence, sensing that today was sacred. "Mom," Sariah whispered, "what if he doesn't like us?" Fati inhaled. Her fingers curled slightly around the edge of the seat. "It's not about whether he likes you," she said. "It's about you knowing who you come from." She didn't say more. She couldn't, because deep down, she didn't know what kind of man Elliot Grant had become. All she had were college memories, a pair of old hoodies she'd never returned, and one night in a dorm room that changed her life forever. Have you ever held back the truth from someone you love, just to protect them? Tell me in the comments below. Welcome back, my beautiful family and friends. If you're hooked in and you're ready to enjoy the story, click subscribe and let me know in the comments where you're watching from. Because tomorrow, I am bringing you another amazing story, and you shouldn't miss it for anything. Back to today's story. Leo Maddox wore navy blue and storm-colored eyes like armor. His phone buzzed in his palm as he skimmed an executive memo. Grant Tower Legacy Initiative launch. Press at 10 a.m. Elliot ETA, 8:15 a.m. for closed-door pre-brief. Leo tossed the phone onto his glass desk and stood at the floor-to-ceiling window of the 39th floor. The city below looked like a chessboard, perfect, strategic, unknowable. Behind him, his assistant Camila peeked in. "Mr. Grant hasn't signed into the building yet." Leo nodded, distracted. Elliot was punctual, borderline obsessive. Something was off. Still, Leo grabbed his iPad and walked briskly toward the elevator. The day had to happen. The legacy launch was everything. The numbers ticked down. 39, 30, 24, 15. When the doors opened to the lobby, chaos. Security guards were shouting. EMTs rushed past. Flashes from press cameras stung Leo's eyes. "Cardiac arrest," they said. Someone whispered. "No, it was poison. Did you hear about the letter?" And then Leo saw them. 3 small children, wide-eyed and pressed against their mother's legs as the marble lobby filled with screaming. She stood still, not confused, not hysterical, just heartbreakingly still. Leo's eyes locked on Fati Vazquez, and something in his chest pulled. He didn't know her name yet. He didn't know her story. But the look on her face cracked him open like nothing ever had. Fati had stared at her phone for 20 straight minutes before sending the message. "I'm coming today. With them. Not asking for anything. Just a moment of truth." She never got a reply. But something in her needed to show up anyway. She had no pictures of Elliot holding his children. No proof they even belonged in his world. But today, she was finally ready to say, "This is what you left behind. And they're beautiful." Leo stepped forward. "Is someone going to get these children out of here?" A female reporter turned, spotting Fati. "That's her. That's the woman. The mystery woman with the triplets." Fati flinched, shielding her kids. "What are you talking about?" A nearby staffer whispered. "They found a sealed envelope in a safe. Your name was on it. You're her, right?" She didn't understand. Not yet. But when the police confirmed Elliot Grant, dead at 7:43 a.m., Fati's knees buckled. Selene tugged on her hand. "Mommy, is that our daddy?" Fati couldn't answer. She looked up at the towering skyscraper Elliot built, and knew nothing would ever be the same again. Fati sat in a small office just off the Grant Tower lobby, her coat still clutched in her hands though she hadn't moved in 20 minutes. The triplets huddled near the window, whispering to each other with the kind of innocent calm only children who don't fully grasp death can muster. Leo stood just outside the glass door, jaw tense, speaking to security through clenched teeth. She shouldn't be in the lobby with press swarming, he said. Get the damn media out of the building. Now! The head of security hesitated. She's not press. She says she's the mother of Elliot's children. Leo blinked. His what? A folder was shoved into his hand. Inside, a sealed envelope, hand addressed in Elliot Grant's unmistakable slant, to be delivered only in the event of my death. For Fati Vazquez. Leo's fingers tightened. 1,000 thoughts bloomed in his head, but none of them made sense. Elliot never mentioned her, never even hinted. And yet, the letter was here, real, undeniable. He walked into the room slowly, careful not to startle her. Miss Vazquez, he said, unsure. Fati looked up at him, her eyes unreadable. I'm Leo Maddox, he continued. Elliot's. I worked with him. He left this for you. He handed her the letter. Fati's fingers trembled as she took it. She didn't open it. Not yet. Her voice was low. My kids have been drawing for years, guessing what color his eyes were, if he liked music, if he'd be proud of their grades. She looked at Leo. And now he's dead before they'll ever know. Leo said nothing. What was there to say? Outside, the media storm intensified. Someone had already posted a photo of Fati and the kids under the headline. Secret family? CEO's final hour surrounded by questions. Fati opened the envelope. Inside, a letter written in Elliot's sharp, efficient voice. Fati, if you're reading this, I finally stopped running. I know I left you without answers. I thought I was protecting myself. Or maybe I just couldn't face who I was when you met me. But I think of them often. I wonder if Selene is still the quiet one. If Samir's still loud. If Sariah still draws the world with more color than it has. I was a coward. But I don't want to be erased. I ordered a DNA kit. I never used it. But it's there. I also left a draft of a revised will. It's not final. But if the tests confirm, I want them to be protected. I want them to know I wasn't always this broken. I'm sorry I didn't stay, but I hope you stayed strong. Elliot. Fati's chest rose and felt like she couldn't breathe. She folded the letter and placed it in her purse. Leo watched her closely. Did you know he wrote that? She asked, her voice hoarse. He shook his head. No, he never talked about any of this. Were you close? She asked. Leo hesitated. He raised me, in a way, took me under his wing when I was still figuring things out. I gave him everything I had, maybe too much. Leo watched her closely. Did you know he wrote that? She asked, her voice hoarse. He shook his head. No, he never talked about any of this. Were you close? She asked. Leo hesitated. He raised me, in a way, took me under his wing when I was still figuring things out. Fati looked at him with something almost like pity. And still he kept this from you. There was no malice in her words. Just truth. An hour later, Leo was called into the boardroom. He left a will. One board member snapped. Naming her children as heirs? This is a scandal waiting to explode. Another leaned forward. We need to discredit her. Quietly. If that letter leaks, the stock drops. Leo's jaw tightened. She's not asking for anything. She came for the truth. Then keep her quiet. Leo stood. I won't lie for him. Not now. The room fell silent. That was the moment it began. The unraveling of every truth they thought they knew about Elliot Grant. Outside, as the tower emptied, Leo found Fati still waiting. Her kids asleep on the leather sofa beside her. I can get you out the back, he said quietly. Is that what you think I want? She asked. No, I think you want answers. Maybe justice. She looked at him then, really looked at him. I want my kids to be able to say their father didn't die a ghost. Leo swallowed. Something in her, strength without bravado, fire without noise, rattled him. He nodded once. Then let me help. If someone betrayed you, but left behind a letter asking for redemption, would you forgive them? Let me know in the comments. You should leave town, the lawyer said flatly, not even looking Fati in the eye. Fati sat in a sleek glass conference room inside Grant Tower, her children at her sister's house now. Thank God. Her hands were folded neatly in her lap, but her jaw was set like stone. I haven't done anything wrong, she replied quietly. The man scoffed. You walked into a building the day its CEO was found dead, with 3 children you claim are his, and suddenly there's a letter and a will draft? Fati's spine straightened. I didn't know he was dead when I came here, but now you know he left behind something, and trust me, that makes you dangerous. His tone softened just a fraction. You're a single mother. This, he gestured vaguely to the chaos outside, will destroy your peace. Leave before it gets worse. Fati didn't respond. She didn't cry, but she stood and looked him square in the face. Don't confuse quiet for weakness. And she walked out. Meanwhile, Leo sat in Elliot's private study, a space few were ever allowed into. The scent of old paper and faint cologne lingered in the air. He moved slowly, almost reverently, through the space. A box sat open on the desk. Inside, Leo found a DNA kit, unused, and something else. A sketch, crayon, childlike but precise. 3 kids holding hands, a sun overhead, and a caption in jagged cursive. To our dad, love Sariah, Samir, and Selene. Leo blinked hard, the edges of the drawing blurring. Why would Elliot keep this if it wasn't real? Why hide them? He sat back heavily in the leather chair. What were you so afraid of, Elliot? Outside the tower, the media had turned. Gold digger or grieving mother? Mysterious Afro-Latina woman claims CEO's children. Dead billionaire's secret life unraveling. Even his own godmother sent him a text. You were like a son to him. Don't let her tarnish his name. He stared at the screen before deleting the message. Fati's phone buzzed that night. It was Leo. Don't talk, he said when she answered. Just listen. He was outside. She opened the door slowly. He looked exhausted. I don't know what Elliot was thinking, he said, but I found the kit, the one he never used. And that picture your kids drew? He kept it. That means something. I'm not here for the money, she said quietly. I know, but that won't stop them from making you the villain. Fati exhaled. I've survived worse than headlines. A pause. I don't know what I'm doing, Leo admitted. She tilted her head. Then why are you here? Because if I walk away now, I'll be just like him. Later that night, Leo sat in his apartment, scrolling through years of emails between him and Elliot. Mentorship product launches, code reviews. It was clinical, controlled, but one message stood out. Subject, if I die. Leo, if anything ever happens to me, there's a file on my personal drive marked Violet. You'll know when to open it. Leo's pulse quickened. He grabbed his laptop. Password protected. 3 failed tries. On the 4th, Sariah, Selene, Samir, it unlocked. Inside, financials, encrypted messages, and photos. Dozens. Elliot in a car, across the street from a park. The triplets on a swing set. Fati reading a book nearby. Leo's breath caught. Elliot had watched them. Never approached. Never spoke. But he had known. And still he stayed away. The next morning, Fati opened her front door to find a package. Inside, a memory drive, and a single line typed on paper. He did care. He just didn't know how to come home. LM. Can love ever excuse absence? Is watching from afar enough? Tell me in the comments what you think Elliot's silence really meant. The storm hit just before noon. Hard rain slammed against the courthouse windows as Fati sat with her lawyer, cradling a styrofoam coffee cup. It was her first official meeting with the estate attorney handling Elliot's preliminary affairs. Leo walked in 5 minutes late, soaked through his blazer and visibly irritated. You're late, the estate lawyer, Ms. Bramble, said crisply. I ran here from Grant Tower. The board had questions. Then let's begin. She looked between them. Ms. Vazquez, Mr. Maddox, Elliot named you both as temporary executors for personal matters. Not legal or financial, but human. Until this is sorted, you're expected to cooperate. Fati blinked. He left us together? Leo scoffed under his breath. Of course he did. They were handed keys to a brownstone Elliot had kept under a private LLC, a backup office, a crash pad. Inside, files, photos, even voicemail recordings. It was the one place untouched by PR teams and lawyers. And now they had to sort it. Together, they arrived separately but lingered awkwardly at the threshold like strangers at a wake. The smell of old coffee and cedar hit first. The lights buzzed overhead. He lived here sometimes? Fati asked, brushing dust off a chair. Leo nodded. He called it the neutral zone. No cameras, no surveillance, just quiet. They split up. She started in the office. He took the bedroom. 2 hours passed. Rain pounded the windows. Thunder rolled like judgment. Fati found a drawer filled with manila folders marked with code names. One folder, Midnight Violet, held scribbled timelines, a copy of her old driver's license, and a list of OB/GYNs she had visited 9 years ago. She stared at it, sick to her stomach. He kept tabs on me, she said when Leo entered. He looked at the folder and frowned. I didn't know it was this bad. Why didn't he just call? Or write anything? He was afraid. Fati laughed bitterly. Of a woman and 3 toddlers? No, of being known. That silenced her. In the bedroom, Leo found a box of cassette tapes. One labeled, Fati, 2014, don't listen. You promised. He didn't press play. Yet, that evening, lightning cut across the sky as they sat across from each other in Elliot's bare kitchen, the storm trapping them inside. No internet, no cell service, just a low hum of tension and flickering candlelight. Fati watched him as he wiped condensation from a window. You were loyal to him, she said softly. Even now. He saved my life when I was 22, pulled me out of a halfway house, paid for therapy, taught me everything I know. And now you're stuck in the middle. Leo turned, his eyes heavy. I don't want to be in the middle. I want to be on the right side. I just don't know which side that is yet. They sat in silence. Fati's fingers toyed with her locket. Selene cried when I told her dad died, she said. She said, can he still love me from heaven? And I didn't know what to say. Leo's voice was low. What did you say? I said, he'll learn how. Leo looked away. Later that night, he offered her the bedroom while he took the couch. But Fati stood in the doorway, holding the cassette. Tell me why I shouldn't play this, she said. Why I should leave his voice locked in this plastic forever. Leo hesitated. Because you already know how it ends. And hearing it won't unbreak anything. She held his gaze, then slowly placed the tape on the mantel. If you were Fati, would you listen to Elliot's tape? Or protect your peace and leave the past unheard? Drop your answer in the comments. The next morning, Fati awoke to the smell of brewing coffee and the sound of Leo speaking softly on the phone. No, I'm not backing her, he whispered harshly. I'm telling you, this isn't about money. She didn't even know about the will, no. I haven't told her what's in the second envelope yet. Fati stepped back before he saw her. Second envelope? Her throat tightened. She took a walk to clear her head, the cold air snapping against her skin like truth. She ended up at a tiny cafe, the kind she used to visit when she was pregnant and terrified, back when her belly was a secret, and the only people who spoke to her were strangers with kind eyes and no judgment. A woman next to her smiled at the kid's picture on her lock screen. Triplets? Yeah. Where's the dad? She asked casually. Fati froze, then smiled. It's a long story. Back at the brownstone, she found Leo still inside, watching the rain again. You knew about another envelope, she said. Didn't tell me. He sighed, stood up. I was going to. I just wanted to read it first. See if it would hurt you. You don't get to decide that. She held out her hand. Give it to me. The second envelope was thinner, older. Elliot's handwriting was shaky. Inside, a sonogram photo. A note, yellow with time. I don't know if I'll ever be brave enough to say this to your face, but I saw the test. I followed you to the clinic. I knew and I ran. You deserve better than a man raised on secrets and driven by ghosts. But if they're mine if I'm ever gone, let them know I was trying to be a better man by then, even if I never made it. Tears slipped down Fati's cheeks. Not for him, but for the version of him that almost tried. She remembered the night it happened, the night he disappeared. They were in her small apartment. She had planned to tell him over dinner. He got a phone call halfway through, stood up, pale and shaking. My dad's in the hospital. I have to go. She reached for his hand. Can we talk first? It's important. He kissed her cheek and whispered, tomorrow. Tomorrow never came. And now, she realized he did know. He left anyway. That night, she played the tape. Elliot's voice was slower, uncertain, recorded from a place of guilt. You were the first person who saw through me, Fati. Saw the scared little boy behind the billionaire mask. And I hated that, because I loved that. I failed you. I failed them. I don't expect forgiveness. But I left enough clues for anyone, to know they exist. That matters, doesn't it? If Leo's listening, help her. She's not lying. And she never wanted your money. Just your name on a birth certificate. Fati didn't cry. She felt clean, like a wound finally exposed to air. She turned off the tape and walked into the hallway. Leo stood there listening. I didn't mean to. I left it on, she interrupted. I wanted you to hear. Leo's face was unreadable. He left me everything. The company. The legacy. But he left you the truth. Fati stared at him. What are you going to do with that truth, Leo? He didn't answer. Have you ever discovered a truth too late, but still felt grateful to know it? Share your moment in the comments below. Someone may need to hear it. It was late. The brownstone was quiet, save for the occasional creak of old wood and distant New York wind. Fati stood at the window, arms wrapped around herself, watching the light from the street lamps blur against the glass. Leo sat on the couch. He had turned off his phone. For once. No cameras, no boards, no lawyers. Just two people in a quiet war with the silence between them. You were right, Leo finally said. He knew, and he still left. Fati didn't turn around. That's not the part that hurts. Leo waited. It's that he looked like he'd changed, she whispered. On TV, talking about legacy, about children. I thought maybe he was ready. Maybe it was safe. Her voice cracked. But people don't change just because we need them to, do they? Leo moved to stand behind her, not close enough to touch, just close enough to listen. I think he wanted to, but wanting doesn't undo the damage. She nodded. I've spent years teaching my kids not to hate a man they'd never met. I made him a ghost with soft edges. Her shoulders trembled, and now they'll never know the real version, good or bad. Leo finally stepped closer, just enough to offer warmth. You're braver than I ever realized. That night, she let him help wash the dishes after the kids fell asleep on the couch, heads pressed into pillows that smelled like their mother's skin. He rolled up his sleeves, awkward with a sponge. I haven't done dishes in a decade. Fati chuckled. You're doing fine. Just not on the crystal. There was something real in the moment. The hum of soap bubbles. The smell of lavender detergent, the sound of two people trying not to be lonely. Later, they sat on the floor, an old record player between them. Fati picked a vinyl out of the collection Elliot had sent her back when he was still trying. Music they'd once shared. Stevie Wonder? Leo raised an eyebrow. As she placed a needle, the room filled with the warmth of soul music and half-forgotten promises. Fati leaned back against the couch, eyes closed. Leo asked quietly, what would you want if there were no cameras, no press, no board? She opened her eyes. Peace. Truth. A name for my kids that doesn't come with shame. And for you? She smiled faintly. I stopped asking for things a long time ago. He reached over and took her hand, not in a way that asked for anything, just a quiet offering. I think you deserve to ask again. The record skipped slightly. Neither moved. A few minutes later, Fati got up to check on the kids. They were curled into each other like they'd always done. Selene's thumb in her mouth, Samir whispering to himself in a dream, and Sariah holding tight to the old bear Fati had stitched years ago. She turned around to find Leo in the doorway, watching them too. "I never wanted to be anyone's dad," he said. "But I don't know. I look at them and I feel something. Fear." He laughed softly. "Yeah, that. And something else. Hope. Maybe." It started with a knock. Not just any knock. The kind that changes everything. Fati opened the door, only to find two men in suits, stern, clipped, polite in that way that only powerful people can afford to be. "Ms. Vazquez, we're here on behalf of the Grant Family Trust." Leo appeared beside her. "What is this?" One of the men, Dale something, from the board, handed her a thick envelope. "We're filing an injunction, effective immediately. Any claim to Elliot Grant's estate, intellectual property, or custodial rights is contested until further investigation." She blinked. "What?" Dale didn't flinch. "Until paternity is officially verified and any interference from secondary parties." His glance hit Leo like a slap. "Is resolved. You're required to cease public statements and remove the children from Grant Tower premises." Leo stepped forward. "This is insane." Dale didn't even look at him. "What's insane is letting a scandal ruin the company your friend built." Inside the envelope was a photo. A security image, grainy but clear. Fati, her children, in Elliot's private penthouse, escorted in by Leo Maddox. And beside it, an anonymous email to the board, claiming Fati had seduced Leo to manufacture legitimacy, that she manipulated her way into the building, that Leo, once a loyal exec, was now emotionally compromised. Fati stared at it, shaking. Leo read over her shoulder. "No," he whispered. "I didn't. This isn't." Her voice came out like glass. "You told me no one would find out we went up there." "I didn't tell anyone." She shoved the envelope at him. "Then how the hell did this photo end up in a board meeting?" His silence was answer enough. The walls closed in. Leo reached for her hand again. She pulled back like he burned. "You said you didn't owe him anything anymore," she said. "But you're still doing it. Still living under his shadow. I didn't mean for this to happen. You didn't mean for any of it. That's the problem." The kids were watching. Samir peeked from the hallway. Selene clutched Fati's leg. And Sariah, small but always the most aware, said softly, "Are we in trouble, Mommy?" Fati knelt and pulled them close. "No, baby, you're not." She didn't look at Leo as she spoke. "Someone else's." That night, Fati packed. Not just her clothes. Her faith. Her trust. Her almost. The music that once played between them was gone. Leo stood in the hallway, helpless. "You said you wanted peace," he whispered. She zipped the bag. "Peace doesn't come from men like you." She left without slamming the door. That hurt more. Leo stayed in the apartment, sitting on the couch long after midnight. Elliot's final note was still in the drawer, unread, unopened. The vinyl she left behind crackled softly, turning on its own until the needle hit silence. Meanwhile, across town, Fati held her kids tighter than she ever had. They asked her if they could still meet their dad. She told them the truth. "You already did, in the way that matters. He gave you eyes that see, voices that question, and hearts that don't give up. But is he still our daddy?" Samir asked. Fati's voice broke. "Yes, baby, just not the kind who stays." Have you ever trusted someone too soon and paid the price? Share your story in the comments. Someone reading needs to know they're not alone. The air felt colder without him. It had only been 2 days, but Fati felt it in her bones, the kind of emptiness that lingered after betrayal. She moved through her apartment like a ghost. Cooking dinner, folding laundry, brushing Selene's curls. All the motions, none of the music. The triplets were quieter too. Sariah no longer hummed during homework. Samir had stopped asking questions about the stars. Selene, the emotional sponge of them all, curled in bed at night and whispered, "Is Leo mad at us?" Fati froze at the doorway. "No," she said softly. "He's just figuring things out." Across the city, Leo stood in the room Elliot once called a sanctuary. The walls were lined with books and monitors, but none of it made sense anymore. He stared at the note Elliot left behind, the one marked, "To be opened by Leo Maddox only if I die suddenly." For days he hadn't touched it, because maybe knowing the truth meant facing the truth. Tonight he opened it. Asterisk, Leo, if you're reading this, it means I didn't outlive my secrets. I know you think you owe me your life, but I want you to know something. I saw the way you looked at that woman, the way you softened around her kids. I never had the courage to be a father or a partner, but you have a chance to be more than my legacy. Burn this if you need to, but don't lie to yourself. She'll bring color back into your life. Let her. Asterisk. Leo's hands trembled. His throat closed. For the first time, he wept. Later that night, he drove. No plan, just instinct. His mind flooded with every moment he'd shared with Fati. Her quiet strength, the way she touched her children's backs as they walked, the fury she carried like armor. He ended up on a quiet street outside her building. Lights were off, but in the window he saw them, the triplets on the couch, watching an old cartoon. Fati in the kitchen, a towel slung over one shoulder, her expression tired. Not angry, just alone. He didn't go in. He left something instead. Fati found it the next morning. A slim envelope on the welcome mat. Inside, a letter. Short, raw. Asterisk, I should have protected you. Not just from the board, from me. I thought loyalty meant staying true to the man who raised me. But Elliot was trying to change. You showed him how. I missed the music. I missed the light. I missed the 3 small humans who made my apartment feel alive. If you ever want someone to fight beside you again, I'm here. No shadows. Just me. Leo. Asterisk. She reread it 3 times. She didn't cry. She sat down at the table, pulled out paper, and watched her kids draw after breakfast. Sariah made a rocket ship. Selene drew a heart. Samir scribbled a man holding 3 smaller hands. It's Leo, he said, but only if he comes back. Fati stared at it for a long moment. Then she picked up her phone. Have you ever had to choose between pride and forgiveness? What did you do? Comment below. Your story might help someone make their own brave choice. The courtroom smelled like dust and sharp perfume. Fati sat at the table, shoulders straight, as the opposing lawyer accused her of everything. Fraud, manipulation, opportunism. Beside her, Leo didn't flinch. He let them talk. Let them sneer. Let them spin webs of lies. Because today they had proof. Earlier that morning, Fati had received a package. From Elliot's old lawyer, someone who worked quietly in the background, watching everything unfold. Inside, a USB drive with a video. Elliot, sitting in his office, just weeks before his death. If you're seeing this, I'm gone. I never signed the final will. I was afraid of press, the board, the storm it would cause, but I want this on record. Fati Vazquez is the mother of my children. I've seen their photos. I've taken the DNA test. There is no doubt, and if I fail them in life, I won't in death. Give them what's theirs. And to Leo, take care of them if you can. I think they might save you. The silence after the playback was thunderous. The judge looked over his glasses. Miss Vazquez, he said softly, you and your children are hereby recognized as legal heirs to the grand estate. It wasn't about money, not for Fati. It was about her children's name being spoken without shame. It was about truth. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed. But Leo stepped in front of her. No statements today, he said, shielding her and the kids. Let them breathe. Fati touched his back lightly. A thank you, but she wasn't ready to speak. Not yet. That evening, the apartment was quiet again, until a knock at the door. Leo stood there in a navy sweater, holding a worn guitar. I thought maybe they want music again. Fati opened the door wider. He stepped in. The triplets lit up like stars pulled back into orbit. Sariah showed him a science project. Samir climbed into his lap. Selene whispered, "You came back." He swallowed. Always. Fati stood in the kitchen, watching them. Leo looked up. I meant what I wrote. I don't want to be a shadow anymore. I want to be someone who stays. Her voice cracked. Even if it's messy? Even if I'm not always soft? Leo rose, walked to her. Especially then. She touched his face. I'm scared, she admitted, of believing in something again. Me too, he whispered. He kissed her, slow, careful, like a promise instead of question. The kids didn't cheer. They didn't even notice. They were already home. Weeks passed. The media frenzy died down. Fati declined interviews. Leo stepped away from the company. They moved to a quieter part of the city. The triplets started at a new school. One afternoon, Fati sat with a framed photo of Elliot. She didn't cry. Instead, she whispered, I hope you're proud. Then turned to find Leo tying Samir's shoelaces, Selene balancing blocks on Sariah's head, laughter bouncing off the walls. Not perfect, but real. Her family. She bent down again, just like she did that morning weeks ago, and kissed each forehead. You've already met your dad, she whispered, but today you finally got your family.
Thank you for watching this story to the end. If you enjoyed this story, you will surely love the next one. It's as crazier and more intriguing as you can ever imagine. So do check it out. Click on the image showing on your screen right now to watch the next one.